The question is, do you think it is necessary for me to keep up with all the inventory of my irrigation parts at my company and on my trucks? So this individual is wondering if they need to put in place an inventory management system, and there's software that does that. Likewise, QuickBooks can do some basic inventory functionality. So my general take on this is no. And a lot of the reason for that opinion is just seeing what goes on within our own business. And then also because of Service Autopilot having so many clients in the industry, what I've seen is that most companies that manage inventory, what they end up doing is putting all their inventory into the system, assigning inventory to a truck, and then something happens. The inventory is off by some amount. Nobody knows exactly why, so they make an adjusting entry. A little time goes, inventory's off again. They talk to the tech. Tech's like, hey, I don't know. I guess I used it on a job. I mean, and you like the tech, you trust the tech, so what do? You don't make him pay for the inventory. You don't fire him. You make an adjusting entry. So more often than not, what I see is a lot of companies just making tons of adjusting entries, and therefore the inventory management is near worthless because you're not using it to measure anything. You're not using it to penalize anybody. You're not using it, or it's not giving you the information to know if anybody's stealing from you because you still never know, so you make adjusting entries. You may have hunches, but you can't prove them, and you don't want to fire that guy because, wow, he's really important. That's one side of it. The second side of it, it's so easy to get caught up in all the little stuff in the business. Irrigation's a great example. There's so many T's and elbows, and there's so many things involved. How in the world can you possibly track all that stuff? So if you want to track inventory, then what I would essentially say is, instead of having a whole inventory management system, why not have some type of a system within your office or your yard or your warehousing that protects the high dollar stuff, and when it's needed on a job, you divvy it out. So you just keep the higher dollar stuff locked up somewhere. So you've got a bunch of controllers or whatever it is that you have that's high dollar in terms of inventoried equipment and parts. You keep that in a locker, you keep that locked up, you keep it in a warehouse, and then you divvy that out when the job calls for it. That's one angle. So instead of an inventory management system from a software standpoint, it's more of a physical inventory system. Because it's so easy to think about, I'm going to optimize this, that, and the other in my business, and then let's say that you have a loss of $3,000 a year in inventory parts, but now you take on this new project, or let's call it $5,000, and now you take on this new project, and it takes $5,000 or $6,000 of your time, or the employees that you're paying $18 an hour, now every week it's taking an extra hour of their time, 50 weeks of the year times 5 employees plus your time. It's just one more thing for you to think about and obsess over, and it takes mental capacity. So my takeaway, my point is, I generally think it's not worth maintaining an inventory system, especially for smaller companies. Instead, put in some different types of procedures to protect the inventory, but know you're going to have some loss, and try as long as you can to avoid having to put a whole big technology system in place for it.